what you mean. Yeah, okay. I don't know. I think it's gone. Hi, I think I see the light there. It's just gone off. And if I seem rather casual, it's because, frankly, I'm exhausted. We've been trying to get this thing going now. Well, you know, we did a show some time ago, and now I've been sitting here for 2.5 hours. And one thing I've noticed, some of my crew has left because I had other things to do. And I'm kind of fried, you know, looking at these intensely bright lights. I don't know if you can tell how hard this is on me. But one thing I have to say is that my guest has been so patient through this whole thing. You know, she's been actually trying to help the rest of us who are trying to survive this ordeal with our equipment failures and everything. And the point I'm trying to make is that my guest has had 3 near-death experiences. She was on my last show in which I said glowing things about her. She's one of the original researchers of the near-death phenomenon. She has the largest known research base of adult children and adults in the world. And she's written 7 books. She's been on Larry King, Geraldo, Regis Lee, and in Entertainment Tonight. Now she's here with me, and that is really an incredible honor, especially so since she's been so patient through all of this. There's been not a trace of any irritation, and I think this speaks volumes about who she is. I'm really honored to present P.M.H. Atwater.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello,
we meet again.
hello.
Wait, let me get myself together here.
There you
Hi.
go.
You've weathered this chaos with remarkable ease. That's all you need to say. Okay. Now, on the last show we talked about many things. We talked about your near-death experience. And for the people who didn't see the last show, it might be a good idea to tell us briefly what the near-death experience is and what effect it has on people that changes their life.
The near-death experience, as near as we can tell, is a very lucid, coherent sense and reality and experience of full consciousness, full faculties, and in fact full life on the other side of death. So it seems to happen even in cases of fear death, when a person thinks they're going to die and it looks like, wow, this is it, but they don't. Those cases where a person does indeed physically die and are later resuscitated or revive. So it seems to happen the most often on that edge of death, or even beyond that edge of death. So that's the near-death experience. Near-death meaning that they do come back, but it does involve edge that we call death, and the sense of an afterlife, the sense that life goes on. What happens afterward? Well, by golly, not all of them are changed completely, but most of them experience a transformation of their life. There are physiological after effects as well as psychological after effects. It seems to change brain function, chemistry, structure. It certainly has a tremendous effect on the nervous system, the digestive system, and the skin. Very definitive after effects that do occur that change or alter to some degree the physical body. Most people are familiar with the psychological after effects, no longer fearing death, becoming more comfortable, more loving, more open. Most people, though, aren't that familiar with the fact that afterward, especially immediately afterward, an experiencer can go through long periods of confusion or depression. What do you do with it? I mean, you return to life from a very hyper-lucid state, and you're looking around at the earth world, family, hospital, scene, and somehow it looks dull. Somehow it looks not quite right. It's like where you were, you recognize as home, where you need to be, want to be, dream of being, and suddenly you're there, and not only it seems somehow to be even above and beyond anything you could imagine or dream, and you come back to this world and it's you know, it's like the color is gone.
But you know, you're kind of an example of what could happen, because as I was, you know, explaining to the people watching, I am fried and you are full of, and you are full of energy.
As cool as a cucumber.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
Well, that's over time. I'm just speaking
I see.
of immediately afterward.
Uh-huh.
And I think people need to remember that the near-death experience is not just a list of elements that appear in some kind of scenario. Mm-hmm. That the near-death experience is far more complicated and robust than that. Mm-hmm. We can have simple experiences that may be one element, maybe two or three, max. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's all. And yet they display the full component of after effects mm-hmm. afterward. They can have hellish or unpleasant, frightening experiences. They can have heavenly or comfortable or loving experiences. Mm-hmm. They can have transcendent experiences that seem to break all the rules. They wind up in some kind of heavenly college or hop a light ray and tour the universe.
And you found
lots of different ones.
And you found that are children's near-death experiences different from adults?
They have the same kind of experience in that sense of range. But most of the kids, 76% in my research base was 277, 76% of them had what I would call that initial experience, mm-hmm. where one or two, maybe three things happen, something like encountering the friendly darkness, or a very comfortable nothingness, or maybe a quick body experience, or having a greeter of some kind, or hearing a voice, and that's it. I mean, that's all there is.
You know what I find interesting? I don't know if you wrote it or someone else wrote it, but children don't have the cultural basis with which to interpret, you know, an adult could say, well, I met God or angels or a particular deity or whatever, and children don't have that, that cultural influence. So when they speak, they're speaking from...
They're speaking from their reality, their truth, all that they know.
They're not trying to convince anybody of anything.
No, they're just talking about what's there. Mm-hmm. It's like most of the children when they come back. They still see the dead, they still see disincarnates. They still see bright ones or angels or beings that they met on the other side, mm-hmm. continue to manifest, continue to be part of their lives. Mm-hmm. Let's say, for instance, a child dies on the operating table in a hospital, mm-hmm. has a near-death experience, is back in their room. They will see all of the people that died in that hospital room or walking down the halls, and they'll comment on it to their nurse. Who are these people walking by? And maybe some nurses will recognize the description and say, well, that's a person that died here a week ago. Or maybe a few hours ago, and the child sees them as perfectly real.
Mm-hmm. Now you've got a book there with some pictures in it. I don't know if you want to show those pictures right now. Maybe we can lead up to it. How can we do that?
How can we do that? Introducing the child's experience, children have experiences too. I want to invite your audience to realize that death experience can happen to anyone at any time. That is to say, being born. That is to say, in birth trauma. That is to say, infants and toddlers. People of any age, anywhere in the world. So these little ones, these tiny ones that are having pre-birth near-death experiences, maybe a near-death experience in the vagina coming out, birth track, afterward, they tell their experience when they have language or they draw it, or they act it out. So this is how we know that it can happen to anyone at any age. What validates the experience is the after effects. So you're looking at the after effects, and the children indeed exhibit this. So we have a lot of, certainly in my research, cases in birth trauma that are related to birth trauma, infants and toddlers. And in that book of mine, The New Children and Near-Death Experiences, I have a special section on the little ones, infants and toddlers. And what I'm suspecting is happening with the little ones is they're imprinting to the other side instead of this side, the other side more real. It's like that's home. And to readjust to the family, readjust to school, to readjust to the neighborhood, that can be very confusing to kids.
Can you give us an example of what a child experienced when she was over there, after she died?
Oh, let's show the book.
No, I wasn't trying to push it.
I mean, this is perfect for the book. It's a
okay.
perfect entree to the book.
All right.
I encourage all child experiences. I don't care how old you are. Let's say you had your experience when you're 5 years old. Even when you're 40, make your book. Create your book. Go back to that experience, draw it, write it down, somehow create your book. That validates it for you, and that is even more life-changing for the kids, because the kids hold it in, they repress it, they suppress it. Children don't integrate, they compensate. So for the child experiencer, I don't care how old you are, make your book. Well, a woman in Holland took my word. She had her experience when she was 8.5 because of kidney infection and kidney failure. She physically died, had her near-death experience. When she was 38 years old, she created her book. Now, she made it very plain to me, she's not an artist, but as far as I'm concerned, she is. Her name is Afka. Afka Holmes Oosterhoff. And the book itself is all in Dutch, but the pictures, they speak louder than words. This is in wintertime, and here is Afka's death.
Wait, yeah.
Afka has now died, and the angel has come to get her.
Is that the angel coming to get her, or is that her spirit coming out?
No, that's the angel coming to get her. She's very about that.
Okay.
She was greeted by this angel who pulled her out of her body and took her with her. Let me turn a few more pages here and show you what the angel did. The angel took Afka touring in all kinds of universes. Oh, sorry about that.
We want your
all
head
kinds
showing.
of words.
We want your head showing. Let me get.
Yeah.
Okay. Loosen up. Loosen up.
Can
Okay.
you see
we got
that?
it.
The angel took Afka through this swirl of energy and worlds and realms and dimensions.
Do you know that Nadia said that when and she had 3 near-death experiences?
First one was as a child. She's part of my research.
I know
base.
she. Oh, really? Oh, that's
Yeah.
true. That's true. She was bitten by a poisonous snake.
Right, a
and
viper.
Went into kind of a coma, I think.
Yes.
That's when she first saw the beautiful lady suspended in
Right.
the sky, who she
Right.
calls an angel.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead.
Okay, let's turn the page.
The angel appeared to her in the other 2 near-death experiences that she had, and she longed.
came back.
She longed to go back and revisit this wonderful being in which she felt so much love. Yeah.
And
Okay.
here's Afka again, sitting with the angel. The angel then is teaching her about the different worlds, the different realities. So the angel is doing a lot of instruction for Afka.
Can you give us an idea of what the angel told her? Do you know right off?
Well, like
If not specifically her, what do angels tell
about
people?
the different worlds exist, that you can live in these different worlds, different kinds of beings live in these different worlds, that kind of instruction. And then when she was through, the angel led her to a hallway filled with many, many doors. And the angel said to Afka, pick a door. And then the angel disappeared. The child was all by herself in the hall. So she went to a door that felt right, entered the doorway, and wound up back in her body, back in the hospital room. By then she's in a hospital room, and they are reviving her, and she comes back.
So she took the door to take her back to her life.
She took the door, she picked
And
the
in a
door
way
to
she
take her
chose
back to her
that.
life.
Maybe in that state, who knows?
Who knows how she chose it, but indeed she did. And I really, really recommend that children, you know, create your book. In my research base, 61% of the kids regretted ever having had a near-death experience.
Why?
You don't find this with adults. You find it with children.
They regret having a near-death
regretted it because it complicated school so much and complicated going back to their families so much that it was really difficult
Tell us some
for
of the
them.
problems.
Well, you know, the kids would say, when I asked the children, regardless of how old they were, how do you feel about your near-death experience? And they would kind of frown. And they would say, I lost my childhood. What I invariably found with child experiencers when they come back is they're more mature than they were before. They know more than they did before. They're more mature in their actions and their responses. It's just the opposite with adults. They're younger than they were before, more childlike than they were before, more innocent and spontaneous than they were before. It's just the opposite.
Yeah. Question: what is the difference? When an adult has a near-death experience, their attitude toward religion can change, but when a child has a near-death experience, what happens
Again,
with
it's just
them?
the opposite.
What happens with them?
In my research with adults, my research base now is nearly 4,000 adults and children. And the adults, clearly 2/3 of them left church, left religion.
Why?
Wanted to walk the spiritual path.
Oh, I see.
Because they had a personal relationship with God. They didn't want some or some priest telling them what they had to believe or should believe, because they knew they were there. They knew. Many of them had a relationship with Jesus. They saw Jesus on the other side.
Question.
They knew.
Yeah, question.
They knew different.
In one book, a child purportedly said they were with Jesus and they saw the holes in his hands.
Some of them did, indeed. But with a child,
Okay.
Opposite than an adult. Adult will leave church. A child runs to church, dragging their parents with them. They don't care what church.
Why is that?
They don't care because it's God's house. They know it's God's house, and they want to be in God's house.
And what else do they do to bring that presence into their life?
They have altars in their home. Invariably, a child experiencer will create an altar, even if it's just their bedroom, even if it's just a dresser, even if it's just a corner of that dresser. They'll lay out a special white handkerchief or white cloth or special cloth of some kind, and they'll put maybe flowers or maybe special objects or stones on that cloth.
Because this reminds them of the connection they
To
had.
them, that's sacred. And they approach that with that sacred mindset. This is where you pray. This is my altar. This is where I worship God.
Now, when an adult has a near-death experience, they may flee from church
Yeah.
because
They're more apt to be out in the great blue, out in nature.
now this is what Nadia said also. She said
Yeah,
that-
or running out into nature. Again, because they have that personal experience of God, and they feel oneness with everything and everyone. Want to be out there where the oneness of the family is. The children want to be in there where God is.
I have a personal question.
Sure.
How do you experience God?
How do I experience
Yes.
God? With every breath,
Okay.
every breath, every movement, every moment. Good, bad, or indifferent, still God.
Okay.
But, you know, with my research of children, I want I want to make a statement here. I want to convey some of my other findings with children.
Sure.
In my research base, 277, one half of them, clearly 50%, could remember their birth in detail. In those cases where I could be with the moms, I would say this really happened, you know?
And you have a
And it
particular way of
was.
interviewing people which pretty much nixes the possibility of contamination or infusing their own thoughts onto them.
Look, folks, I'm a cop's kid. I was raised in a police station.
And
I use police investigative techniques as
Right.
my protocol.
Right, and one thing I learned from reading one of your books is when someone had something interesting to say and there was a pause, you had a magical word for them, and that was and. I have to remember
Tell me
that.
more.
Okay,
Would you
okay.
please describe that? And then you pat him on the hand.
But there's
And
nothing.
you grow a little closer.
Right.
And a lot of facial expressions here.
yeah.
I don't just interview people. I have sessions with people where I'm watching the body language. I'm watching the eyes. I'm watching the arms and the hands and the feet. And, you know, I'm watching everything. If anybody passes by, does that make a difference in the way they're dialoguing to me? Does that make a difference for the individual that went by? So I'm always watching the dance that we do. I'm not just hearing words. I'm also watching the nonverbal content of what they're conveying to me. My dad taught me that. He was very strict about that sort of thing. And you never load your language. He said, all you can do is just ask the simple question, what happened to you?
You know, we've got 5 minutes left, and I think I can get this point in. Did we talk about DNA in the last talk that we did? Or did we talk about that before the show began? I can't remember what.
Before the show began.
Okay. Can we talk about how some people actually appear to choose their DNA for the next birth?
Right.
I find that interesting. It might be kind of off the point.
Before their birth.
Before their birth. Right before their birth, right. Could
They
you
saw
talk
them,
about that a bit?
they experienced themselves as spirit beings at that moment when the sperm fertilizes the egg. At that moment, they knew that they had to do everything very, very quickly. They didn't have much time. They would pick and choose their DNA, hair color, eye color, physique, body, and this
Maybe even life events that would happen to them or not?
I don't recall any of them saying that,
All right.
but picking the physique. And this teenager was especially explicit. He said, I saw the gene for cleft palate go by, and I chose not to take it. I wouldn't need a cleft palate in this
Right.
lifetime.
How did he see that? How did he know that?
Clearly, he saw it. He knew it. No question.
Okay. And that somehow ties in with Plato's The Myth of where was a soldier who died and then was resuscitated and told about his experience. Can you talk about that briefly?
Well, he was dead for like 10, 12 days, and all of the other
Was
corpses
was a
around.
soldier who was in a battle. And,
Yeah, and all the other bodies are decomposing, and is completely intact. So that, according to Plato and according to me, is just most incredible and exquisite. You know, here is something unique, and his sense is that he was sent back to tell humankind about death, about life, about how you behave, how you act.
What's important?
Yeah, what's important, what's not important, and so he was sent back to instruct humankind.
And stories like this have abounded throughout history. Even in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, there's a image I particularly like about a scale. It's a scene in right after you're dead, where there's a scale, and the heart is on one side, a feather on the other. Tell us about how you see that.
This idea of behaving in a manner that honors your sense of presence, your sense of deity, your sense of God, your sense of oneness, would then bring the heart into such balance that it would automatically balance with anything. So in that painting, In Egypt, the heart organ then is able to balance with just a feather because it's completely in accord with itself.
It sounds like you have some resonance with this in your own life, or at least that's your goal.
I can tell you all kinds of stories
All
about
right.
that one.
Okay, all right, all right.
But you know, another thing I would like to convey is 1/3 of the children in my research base had pre-birth memory.
Tell
And
us
that
about it.
pre-birth memory began about 7 months in utero. They could remember words said, they were able to see outside of the womb, and they were able to quote to their parents when they had language the things their parents did and said in ways that totally shocked their parents. And in fact, I call it whoops. You know,
Okay.
womb with a view.
Right, right. We've got 1 minute left.
Ah,
So, can you get something into us in about 15 seconds?
yes, get the book. The new children and their death experiences.
Okay, good, good, good. Okay, look, I'd like to thank you so much for your patience. I mean, you have kept up your energy level for the past 3 hours under bright lights.
I have no problem with energy level
I know
until
you don't.
about 11 o'clock at
I
night,
know,
and
you
then
don't, have
I'm
to, you
gone.
don't have to tell us that, we can see it. Look, thank you very much for being here. Maybe we can do one more show with an outside camera where we don't have all this, you know
Who
what I mean?
knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Okay, look, thank you so much for
Thanks
being here.
again.
Yeah.
It's been a delight.
It has been. Thank you for the crew, what's left of it, and the people in the control room over there. If you want to make a donation to KMVT, the number is 650-968-1540. We also need people to sign up for the producer's class. The guy who teaches this class is brilliant. He operates on multiple levels simultaneously. His name is Bobby Chastain. It's a pleasure to take a class with him and to become a producer. I respect him totally. Bye. See you next time.
Thank you. I meant to show